So to begin, I would like to wish all the teachers and kempos from the monasteries, the teachers, and particularly all the nuns from the Shedras, all the monks, and all the Dharma friends who are watching over the internet. So Tashidele. So today I will continue speaking about the topic of following the gurus. So I thought that maybe I should start by speaking about the third stanza of the praise he searched thoroughly. So the third stanza of the praise he searched thoroughly, in terms of the outline or the topic, as described in Shama Kuncha Yenlak's annotations to the praise, it's called "How He Followed the Guru." And to read the root verses, it says, "When he realized that all wishes for here and the everlasting come from the holder of all, the spiritual friend, irreversible longings swelled to perfection. His faith became transcendent. To him I pray." To give the main point of these teachings, the spiritual friend is the principle or the foundation of the entire path. And so following an authentic guru is like the life force for all of us who practice the Dharma. And so it is very important for us to follow an authentic spiritual friend. Now, as I mentioned the other day, Mikyo Dorje had 4 primary teachers, as is well known, including Sanji Nempa and the others. So there are 4 main teachers. And so among these 4, Gyaltsab Tashi Nangpa is probably not included as one of these 4 main teachers. However, as I mentioned the other day, Gyaltsab Rinpoche showed great kindness to Mikyo Dorje. He first recognized him as the one who recognized Mikyo Dorje as the Karmapa and enthroned him was Gyaltsab Tashi Nangpa. And then he gave him the fasting vows of the Mahayana and the vows of going forth. And so Mikyo Dorje said that he was very kind. So he was the first of all the lamas that Mikyo Dorje followed in his lifetime. So now I'd like to show you a picture of Gyaltsab Tashi Nangpa so that you may know who he is and what year he was born and what year he passed away. So I'm showing you this now. If you look at this, this is an old tankar, an old painting that is kept in the ladrang of Gyaltsab Rinpoche. It was probably painted during the time of the 6th Gyaltsab, 6th Gyaltsab. So during the time of the 10th, the latter part of the life of the 10th Karmapa and the early part of the life of the 11th. So here in this picture, it says he had hair, right? So as when Mikyo Dorje first met, has long hair. And so just as Mikyo Dorje said when he first met Tashi Nangpa, now you didn't used to have long hair and now you do. And Mikyo Dorje also said that he also had somewhat not the best conduct. And so here, if we look at this picture, we can see this clearly. Now, the year that he was born in is 1487. And the year he passed away was 1515. So he only lived to the age of 29. And his second Lama was Sangye Nyempa Rinpoche. And this is a tanka from the Golden Garland of the Kaju, the Papa Monastery. It's one of 40 tankas. So he was born somewhere around 1450. Now it's difficult to tell. We still need to research this. The year he passed away was 1525. So he must have lived to about 65. Now I'm not certain. He lived into his 60s at any rate, according to the histories. After he studied with Sangye Nyempa Rinpoche, the third guru he followed was Dulmo Tashi Wezar. Now, Dulmo Tashi Wezar, the dates of his birth and death, I still haven't found any clear indication of his year of his birth and death. But if you look at the Kaju Sercheng biographies, you can probably guess the year of his birth, but his birth year is difficult to find, I think. In any case, this picture shows is probably one in the collection of Dulmo Chuje Rinpoche. And so this is so the first time that I've actually seen this picture. So this is Dulmo Tashi Wezar. If you wonder what he looked like, then he probably looked something like this. Next this is Khenchen Chudup Senge, the one from whom he received the full ordination, the Bhikshu vows. So his name was Khenchen Chudup Senge. So among his four gurus, he is considered one of Mikyo Dorje's four main gurus. He was born in 1451 and passed away in 1530. So he probably lived around 80 years. This tanka comes from is from the tanka of Mikyo Dorje in the Kaju Sercheng. On either side, there are several different lamas are painted there, and so I have enlarged the image of Chudup Senge from that tanka. Oh, this is mistaken. And so this made a mistake here with Kama Trungpa. So Kama Trungpa. So this is, I've got the wrong picture. I got too much in a rush, so I put the history of Penchen Shatrapa. So tomorrow I'll put the right picture of Kama Trungpa. I'll show you the correct picture of Kama Trungpa, so excuse me on that one. But in any case, Kama Trungpa was born in 1456, and he passed away in 1513. Excuse me, 1531. But that is not the right picture. That is Penchen Shachok's picture. So I've spoken of the four main teachers, Sangye Nyempa, Dulmo Tashi Wezar, in addition, Khenchen Chudup Senge, and Kama Trungpa. These are considered the four teachers. And then in addition, there's Gyaltsab Tashi Namgyal. And so now I've given you an introduction and shown you their picture. So next, I would like to give an introduction to Dulmo Tashi Wizard. So when I gave the introduction to Sanjay Nempas Rinpoche, when Sanjay Rinpoche passed away, so what was the situation, Mikyo Dorje's situation at that time that Nyempa Rinpoche passed away? And then after that, Mikyo Dorje built a statue, a memorial statue of Sanjay Nyempa Rinpoche. And there are many signs that of it being blessed. So later, that sutra was later brought to its Supa monastery, and this is called the space statue, the Ngku Barnang. So this is it's one of the main statues at Supa monastery. It's statues of Sanjay of Supa monastery. So generally, normally when the remains of someone are brought up to the cemetery, and so the tradition is to bring us the remains to the corporate to the charnel grounds and recite the 4-session Guru Yoga. And if there's someone in the area who is passing away, they're brought to the statue is brought to them and put near the statue near their house, and so that one day it's brought to them, and then that same day it is brought back to Tsurpa monastery. So it is considered a very sacred statue. And so I'm not going to speak so much about it right now, but I thought if I have time, I'll speak about it again later. So next, I'd like to speak about another of Mikyo Dorje's 4 main teachers, Dulmo Tashi Wizard. So he was a direct disciple of the 7th Karmapa Chöda Gyatso. In addition, he was respected as being very venerable in U Tsang and Kam. So he was considered someone who kept his vows very purely. He first studied at Ganden, at Ryogeden or Ganden Monastery, one of the 3 great Gelug monasteries. He studied there first, and then he went to see the 7th Karmapa and studied many texts with him. But he didn't merely study and listen, he also spent a long time practicing in isolated mountain retreats. He gave up all thoughts of any self-interest or the 8th worldly concerns, and trained himself thoroughly in cherishing others more than himself. After Gyatso Rinpoche and Sanjay Nyempa Rinpoche, he is the 3rd guru whom Mikyo Dorje followed. So these days in Tibet, when we consider the most important Kagyu Lamas, we consider Dulmo Chöje. And so he lives in the region of Yushu. So when you think about about his previous incarnations, then they consider Dulmo Tashi Wizard to be one of his previous incarnations. Now, the place that Dulmo Tashi Wizard was born was in Jitu, which is in the area of Jichuzong in Yushu, I believe. Now that area, there are 3 ruling families, there are 3 lords. They were called the Chap Dulmo. So these are the 3 primary ones. And he was born as the son of the Dulmo Lord. And so for that is the reason why he's called Dulmo Tashi Wizard. Now, there are different names given for his clan. Most of the documents from the time of Mikyo Dorje they call his name Du, so the same name as the word for the spelling. Now later, the Dulmo, so now there's an L to the end, so it's spelled Dulmo. So people probably thought that Dumo was probably not so, that it sounded too much like the name for a demon. But in the old days, it was Dumo itself. but it's the name of the clan of the ruling family. Now, we don't know the year that he was born, and I haven't found it clearly indicated anywhere. Because there's no liberation story of Tashi Wizard. There is one in the Golden Garland of Kaji biographies, and also in the Feast of Scholars by Pao Tzu-Kone. There is no separate biography of him, so it's difficult. So I've not been able to find his birth year. But when he was young, he met the seventh Karmapa Chodajatsu and was given the name Tashi Wizard. So that is the name given to him by Chodajatsu. He also received from Chodajatsu the transmission of the Mani mantra. And then he went forth as a monk with Goshi Pajadundra. And from the time he was 8, he studied basic logic with some Gelug Geshis. He went to the Ryoganden, or the Ganden monastery, and became well educated in the sutras and tantras. Then he took full ordination with Churup Sangpo and the Kenshin Shakirashi. So I'm wondering. So it's not clear who it is. So I'm wondering if it might be the one from whom Mikyu Dorje also took his vows. I can't say certainly, categorically, that he is. But when he took the full ordination vows from him, then he also took the Sakya lineage empowerments of Chaksamvara and in the traditions of Lupa and Gandapada, and the empowerments of the great empowerments of Vajrapani. Then he thought he should go back to his homeland. Now, in the old days, when you went to Kham, you could go the northern way or the southern route. The northern route, would you go through Ngachuk, the area of Ngachuk, and the southern line went through the area of Kongpo. So he was going by the southern route. And when he came to Namtu Mountain, he met Lord Chodajatsu. Now, when he was young, he had met Chodajatsu, but he was very little at that time. But now, when he was an adult, this is the first time that he met Chodajatsu as an adult. And the moment that he met him, he received the blessings and felt uncontrollable faith and gave up any thought of returning to his homeland and continued staying with the seventh Karmapa and received experiential instructions on Mahamudra and the 6 yogas, instructions on Mahamala, and the particular teachings of the Karmakaju, pointing out the 3 kayas, invisible prana and awareness, the 3 dohas of Saraha. Also, the teachings on the principle, profound inner principles, and in many other texts, in particular the 3 worlds, the seventh Karmapa's own commentary on the Prajnaparamita. Now, this is not a complete commentary. It goes up through the section on bodhicitta. Now, with the Dakaramba Chugya Temple, Daparamba Chugya Temple wrote about this. He's the one who was the scribe when Chodajatsu wrote what he said at that time is, if there had been a scribe such as me, then Chodajatsu would have been able to write his entire commentary on Prajnaparamita. In any case, he only wrote a portion. Basically, he only wrote up as far as the section on bodhicitta. But in actuality, he seemed to probably originally have plans of writing a text similar to his Ocean of Literature and Logic. And so he received many texts on Sutra and Tantra from Chodajatsu and became well educated in this. Not only that, he went to the monastic colleges in central Tibet, and using the seventh Karmapa's philosophical traditions as the basis for his positions, he had public debates and discussions and became quite rather well known for that. And that also at that time, there was a Siddhatashi Paljora. And from him, he received the 5 sets of 5 deities of Dusum Khyentse and the cycles on Bernak Chen. He primarily practiced with full concentration in mountain retreats and developed great qualities of abandonment, and realization. He is also said to have visions of many Idam deities. Now, when we talk about the 5 sets of 5 deities, it's something that we actually have to know very well. I listed this the other day when I spoke about Dusum Khyentse. I said that one of his main activities was founding the 3 main seats of the Khmer Kagyu, and one of these was also was the 5 sets of 5 deities of Dusum Khyentse. These are his own particular 5 sets of 5 deities. So that in the biography of Chujang Rinpoche, he said that when he went to Litang, no, I don't need to tell that story. It's not certain about that. In any case, among the 2, when the 2 tutors came to Tsurpo Monastery, when the 2 Hartsons came to Chumas, when they spoke to, he said that they spoke to the Chandri, to the steward, the Changzi of Tsurpo Monastery, and said he looked, and they asked him. He said, "Well, what text are you reading?" He said, "I'm reading." So they met him, and they said, "He's saying I'm reading the 13 tantras." So there's a way that we spoke about it actually. Actually, we can't even list all of the 13, but I'm memorizing the 12 tantras. And so, what are the 5 sets of 5 deities of Dusum Khyentse? He asked me. So the first he said Pama, 5 deities of Varaha, 5 deities of Chaksut, Nikadurthu, but the others he couldn't list. Yeah, so you can't. So I said, forget, if you can't even remember the 5 sets of 5 deities, forget about knowing the 12 mandalas. So the question is not passing the test, not passing the quiz. You can't even list the 5 sets of 5 deities. So what are the 5 sets of 5 deities? So if I asked you, it would probably be a little difficult for you, wouldn't it? And so the 5 deities of Vajravati, the 5 deities of Chakrasamvara. Some people also consider the 5 deities of Gyeogyasa, but it's not actually. It's not one of the 5. So it's Vari, the 5 of Varati, 5 of Chakrasamvara, the 5 of Vajraha, the 5 of Hayagriva, and the 5 of Tara. So there are 5 sets, and each of them have 5 deities, so the 5 sets of 5. And so this is something that we need to know. So if someone from another lineage asks you, if they say to you, well, what are the 5 sets of 5 deities of your Karma Constitution? And if you can tell them, if you can't tell them, then you'll be embarrassed. Now later, Tashi Wezir, Dumo Tashi went to Surmang, Ga in Jekondo and Ga, Denma, Dichul Hojun, Chaptu, and various other places, and conducted great activity. In particular, he taught, just as the 7th Karma instructed, he taught the profound inner principles and several other teachings, and the teachings of Chakrasamvara, Vajra, and Gautamata, and teachings from the lineage, in particular. All the profound dharma that he had received from the 7th Karmapa, he gave them these all to the Karmapa, just as if he was pouring from one vase to another. And the 8th Karmapa would say, the 2 Lords Tashi, it's treated him with the same respect as he treated Sanjay Nyempa. And then he built a new monastery at Bengar in Rongpo. And many great beings included Gyatso Jagta Peljor, the monastic worldly communities of eastern Tibet, considered him as a guru to be like one of the great gurus, the one guru who could be one's only guru. And he was also who could teach others the particular view and enter the practice lineage just as it was. So that is a brief introduction to the life of Drulma Chashi Weser. Now, so when I first met Mikyo Dorje, what was the way that he met him? When Mikyo Dorje was 8 years old, he was in the area that's in the present-day region of Yushu. And so during time when Mikyo Dorje came to that area, Saje Nyempa and Drulma Chashi Weser went together to the great encampment. They came to see Mikyo Dorje, and they met each other at that time. And at that time, Mikyo Dorje himself felt great faith for both Sanje Nyempa Rinpoche and Tashi Weser, and thought to himself that that they'd be wonderful to study with the two. Then later, when he reached the age of 15, he had a discussion with his attendants and various other people about whom he should study. And some people said that he should study with Tashi Weser. But the main thing, there wasn't anyone who said that he should study with Tashi Weser. But Mikyo Dorje himself looked at the situation and felt that Tashi Weser was an authentic guru and invited him to the encampment and studied text with him. Now, what he studied with him was primarily about the tantras, Chaksamvara, the root tantras of Chaksamvara and Gusamava, the Vajrasang, the 2 books of He Vajra, the Samputa Tantra, Vajrachatupita. So these are primarily studies of the tantras, as well as the profound inner principles by Rangjung Dorje, the Supreme Continuum, the philosophical schools, and also poetry and grammar. In brief, he studied all the crucial points of practice of the pith instructions from the Vinaya through glorious Suimatra. He learned how to. How to practice listening, contemplation, and meditation, how to engage in explaining, debating, and writing, and the general and specific understanding of the Dharma, the view and conduct of each of the 3 vehicles, the stages of the path of the 3 individuals. And so basically he said that is gaining complete knowledge of the internet, of the complete teachings, is because of meeting Lord Tashi Weser. As Mikyo Dorje himself said, by the power of this master's examples and blessings, I was enthralled by the 3 baskets, sutras, tantras, and their commentaries, the major and minor areas of knowledge for determining them, and the subtlest of terminology. I gained interest in the liberation stories of the Bhagavan Buddha, the Bodhisattvas, and their students. I felt the joy of amazement at the deeds of the Dharma King, ministers and translators and panditas, and unbearable devotion for the root and lineage gurus. The armor for holding, practicing, and preserving and spreading the teachings, the conclusion, the practice for caring for those who seek for liberation, and the methods for to attain beings for the divinity age, and the unconsumed metal eye, for which should be done, should not be given up. And in brief, my great hunger for the essence, for the nectar, the teachings and blessings that are listening of this guru caring for him. So basically, his understanding of the teachings in general, in particular, his understanding of the stories, his interest in the liberation stories, and his great interest in the way that the Dharma King and the ministers and translators of the past had acted, and so basically developing devotion and developing a good understanding is because of the kindness of his guru. He says, in particular, one thing that he felt differently for Tashi Weser Tashi was very simple. He had extremely great compassion. And so when anyone else showed a physical or verbal expression due to the afflictions, such as an expression of temper, of hatred, or of desire, then just naturally or automatically Tashi Weser felt unbearable great compassion. And now when Mikyo Dorje said that he thought to himself, noble Avalokiteshvara noble Avalokiteshvara must be just like this, and he felt great faith in him. Now, Tashi Wezer himself was also delighted by Mikyo Dorji's pure intentions, and the joyful strength of his and enthusiasm of diligence when studying the texts, and the engagement of his intelligence when his great intelligence and great progeny when he was examining the texts. He was extremely happy to see this, as he said. So if we extrapolate from His Holiness's present intentions and his actions and knowledge, I think that in the future Your Holiness, will become an omniscient master in this Lord of Snow. And so this is one thing that what he said. And so what other students said is that later, Mikyo Dorje said that Mikyo Dorje would later become greatly renowned as a scholar of the Sutra and Tantras. They said this is considered like this is considered a prophecy of this happening. And so Mikyo Dorje was still very young at that point. And from that point, Domo Tashi Wezer said, you in the future will be a great scholar, a great master. And so he made that prediction. Now, actually, the period of time during which Mikyo Dorje actually studied with Tashi Wezer was not very long. It was only 3 whole years. There were only 3 years, not even 3 full years. When I said it wasn't less than 3 years, but the blessings of Tashi Wezer, you could say, if we say in contemporaries, the influence of Tashi Wezer lasted Mikyo Dorje's entire life. And the reason for that is that when Mikyo Dorje met him, and when he studied text from him, because of that, Mikyo Dorje developed like a real great interest and a great longing for the Sutra and Tantra fields of Nancha. And then later, for 12 years, he just spent his entire time reading text. He wouldn't relax in the daytime. And even at night, he didn't read much. He just studied the whole time. And he realized that if he ate a lot of food, he would have a lot of phlegm. It's like one of the 3 humors, phlegm. And if he had a lot of phlegm, he'd need a lot of sleep. And so for that reason, he ate very little. And also, when Mikyo Dorje had audiences or conversations with people, he really enjoyed speaking about philosophy in the texts. When he was reading, when he was studying and reading, when he was speaking to us, when there was some sort of a point that came to his mind, he would immediately make a note of it. And so he'd write down the notes at that time. And so he continued with really great diligence for uninterruptedly, and for that. And his great enthusiasm for this was primarily because of the condition of Tashi Wezer's blessings. Likewise, whenever Mikyo Dorje would speak about Tashi Wezer, and so that he'd say that he's very great or a great scholar, when he would remember any of the qualities of Tashi Wezer and think about them and recall them, he had this great faith, really welled up. And he not need to speak about Mikyo Dorje himself, but even the students around him could like feel the warmth of his blessings just sort of coming out. It's like when you have a heater. It's like when you have an air conditioner or a heater. Like you've got the air that comes from. It's like the warmth of the blessing would just come out like that. And so, and this was it's Mikyo Dorje's direct disciples who said that it was like this. So in brief, the Mikyo Dorje wrote a liberation story of Sanjay Nyingpa, the undeceiving essence of Dharmakaya. This is one of two liberation stories of Sanjay Nyingpa, and one of these is called the undeceiving essence of the Dharmakaya. I met the Guru Dummo Weser, who was named after this caste, and he nurtured the slight bit of virtue that was already in my being, granting me the kindness of an understanding of the complete stages of the path of the Buddha's teachings. I could not repay the kindness of this being, even if my body were pulverized into innumerable particles. And so the reason why I said a Dumo, and so the Dumo is because of his caste or his clan name. Tashi was his own name, because of, he said that by meeting it, before it, I had some virtuous thoughts, but they were a little bit, they weren't, so they're a bit weak. They were kind of declining. And because of meeting them, then my faith did not disappear. We're going to talk about the teachings of the Buddha, the teaching of the four philosophical schools of Sutra and Tantra. It's because of him that I gained an understanding of these. So it's extremely kind. So if my body were cut into tiny, tiny pieces, and so made into like flour, if you make it into flour and offered it to him as a mandala, it still wouldn't repay his kindness. And so this is what he said about his kindness. So that was a brief introduction to Drulma Tashi Weser. And so after this, the other gurus, another gurus of Mikyo Dorje is named Chudup Senge. So Chudup Senge, the name Chudup Senge, and the main reason why he is included in as one of the four main teachers of Mikyo Dorje is that he was the person who gave him the full ordination. So he's the person from whom Mikyo Dorje received the victory vow. So that's why it's continued. And Mikyo Dorje also received many other teachings from him. However, but Chudup Senge was just a mere student of Kagyu, but he wasn't necessarily. These days we talk about which lineage, and so he was not in the Kagyu lineage. In old days, it would be difficult to say which lineage you're in, because if you look at them, because the lamas of the past, they'd listen to the teachings from all of the different lineages, the Sakya, Gelo, Karma, Kagyu, and so they had the lineages of all of these different lineages. So what lineage were they from? It's difficult to say. So later, it became easier to say which Dharma lineage you're in, because later you'd only study the teachings from your own lineage, and so it's easy to say that you're Kagyu. But in the old days, it was not like that. Most of the well-learned and accomplished masters studied all of the teachings of all of the different lineages, and they considered this very good. And they'd say that this is like the complete teachings, and they praised doing this for that reason. So he's not the Kagyu lineage itself, but he was the Lama who gave Mikyo Dorje the full ordination. And so for that reason, he's considered one of the four main gurus. Now, his birthplace is in the region of Tsang. There's a place called Yerusima in Tsang. And his father's called Rakye, and his mother was named Losarki, and was born in 1451. When he was a child, he was called Seruicha. At the age of 5, he started to learn how to write from Lopan Chudup Chasam, and also began learning how to recite texts and so forth. From the age of 8, he had studied many tantras, including Hayagriva and Vairocana Sarvavid, and so he learned them well. And so people would come to ask him and ask him to make protection cords and to distill obstructors. So you mentioned the old days in Tibet, in old times in Tibet, Hayagriva was very important for was considered very important, and Virochana Savavid was used often when corpses were brought to the charnel grounds and so forth. Now, at the age of 14, he took the novice vows from the great holder of the Vinaya, Rabdra Sengye. He also received the empowerment of Hevajra and the initiation of the protector Namse. And so there's a particular scripture on Namse. So Mikyo Dorje took the empowerment of Namse from him also. And at 18, he took the 18 in the from the same Kempo and the Sangha. There's also in the presence of a Sangha. And after he had taken full ordination, if he even had the smallest of downfalls, if he had he would confess it that very same day. He wouldn't let another day pass. And so he cherished the precepts just like his eyes. And so he was considered like the crown jewel among all the upholders of the Vinaya, they say. And from his Kempo, he studied many Dharma teachings on Sutra and Tantra. In particular, he studied many instructions and transmissions from Tantong Gyalpa, who was very well known in Tibet at the time, and other masters. Now, at the age of 20, he went to Palden Sangpur. Sangpur is someone who should know. Sangpur? Sangpur was the first Shedra in Tibet. The Sangpur monastery was the first monastery. So it's like the Tibetan Nalanda. And later, Sangpur declined. There's nothing, you can just sort of point out where it was, but the situation of the Shedra and its condition is no longer there. But at that time, it was a very important place. So we went to Sangpura, and there was a great scholar named Tensel. And so he studied a teaching combining the commentary and validity with the treasury of valid logic. He studied the 3 vows and mind training and so forth. And he said that it was extremely beneficial for his mind. At the age of 25, he studied the Prajna Paramita, the 5 Dharmas of Maitreya, the upper lower Abhidharma, the root versus the middle way, and the entering the middle way with great diligence. Now, at that time, however, there was talking about doing dark orders as doing doing a debating tour, and so you'd go to a different monastery and sit as a position, and so and they didn't like this, and so one of the reasons he didn't like this is because one of the main reasons people went on these debating tours is that they wanted to become well known, and so you have the Shedra, you'd go to the so when you do one of these tours, you would go to the great Shedras and you do hold your position. And if it turned out well, you become very well known. So, and so he didn't like these things that you would do in order to gain fame. Now, when he was 30 years old, so he was from the Godangamba. He was a Swadeshi. So this is the primate. He went to. There are 4 main monasteries where you primarily practice the teaching of the Vinaya, where you primarily practice the Vinaya itself. Now later, when there's the war of the Mongol wars and the detailed practices of the Vinaya that had flourished in these monasteries then later declined. And the reason I say this is at the time of Siddhartha Jr., he went on a pilgrimage, and he went to these 4 monasteries. And when he got to Tsopa Drunkar, and now the monastery had been distributed, but when he got to that, when he got there at the Tsopa Deshi, in the past, they had been a very detailed practice of the Vinaya, but they had all declined by that time. And he also went to the Patu Lord of Patu, and this meant that Kungalepa invited the Sangha from all of these 4 Vinaya monasteries, and they held the Yarne or Varsha retreat, the rains retreat. And 100,000 monks from gathered here. And in the middle of this, he gave a discourse about something. It's similar to what we do at during the Yarne. And so everyone said that he did very well at this. Now, after that, in the region of Wu, there was a war started, and he got very despaired about that, and he thought, I should engage in meditation practice. And he received instructions on the 6 applications from the master of yoga, Sunam Senge. And so he received instructions on these 6 applications. And he received the scriptural and logical basis for us on the Shentong view. And so Mikya Dorje, when we look at Mikya Dorje's commentary, when we look at the ornament of clear realizations, and so if we look at it in one perspective, it can be called the true imagist, the false imagist school. In others, we can talk about the Shentong school. The major reason they wrote this is that the person who asked me to teach this was this Khenpo, the Yenzom, the Chudip Sangha himself. And so for that reason, he wrote his commentary on the ornament of clear realization from the perspective of the Shentong tradition. But in any case, when Chudip Sangha developed the Shentong view, he said what he says before. He said that prior to that, it was like he was looking at the meaning of the scriptures with closed eyes at night. But after that, it was looking at them with open eyes in daylight. And so it's basically saying that he really could understand the meaning of the scriptures well at that point. Then after that, he thought he should go to some violent practice and go to a solitary place. But in the past, he had received the Red Spear Vaishnava empowerment from Khenchen Shogye Wanchuk. And at that point, the Khenchen had said that you have to oversee the Tsokte Gendungang Monastery, and made him make the promise to oversee that. And he realized he could not break his promise. And so he started as the discipline master and eventually became the abbot of the Gendungang Monastery. And so he spent his whole life as a leader, both spiritually and politically, at Tsokte Monastery, Gendungang. And then when we talk about the 2 places from Kunga Namkyo, we talk about 2 of the great masters, Ngor and Zong. So Zongba, it means he followed his gurus, Shama Chura Gyatso, the 4th Shama Chenga Chura, Lingme Pandita, Shalulo Chen, and Jenyupa, and others, and studied many sutras and tantras and fields of knowledge. But I don't need to go into detail on that. Now, in terms of how he conducted his activity, when he was 25 years old, at Palden Sampo, that great shutter that he mentioned, he wrote a supplementary text on the Prajnatar. Now, a supplementary text means, what this means is, it's not the main text that would be taught in a class, but it'd be but is it on the side? You'd have a treater, then someone and then you'd have review sessions where places where students could ask questions and so forth. And so it's used for those. So it's a supplement to that. At the age of 25, Gongpa Dorje Dempo was one of his most important lives, and he studied the Sutra and Tantra. Then at 25, he became the Khenpo of Gendong Gampa. And so that is when that happened. So then in 1506, he was invited by Shama Chögyam and received the complete Nyingma Tantras and so forth in parts of the ocean of the Dakinis and so forth. And at that time, there was also Chaklo Tsawa, and there are many Denzatel and Artang, the campus of Nyingma and so forth. There are many students with whom he made Dharma connections. And then after that, Mikyo Dorje invited him, and he went to Kongpo and gave him the full ordination. After he'd given them benediction, Mikyo Dorje said, "Please stay for a while." But he said that the climate didn't suit him, the weather didn't do well, and there's a lord of Yargyap, so one of many lords in central Tibet, and he'd made a promise to visit Yargyap. So he returned to central Tibet. And when he stopped, and he was on the way back to central Tibet, he stopped at Drikun Monastery and spent 5 days there, and then went via Lhasa to Yargyap. And he met the Lord and his wife and children. Now at that time, a lot of students came to see him. But he said to them, "I'm not going to remain long," he predicted. And then when he was 80 years old, in 1530, on the 7th day of the 6th lunar month, he said, "I'm leaving." He said, "So I spread my lap." So spread my mat. And the meaning is, I'm not sure if I understood this. It didn't say spread my mat. It said send my mat. So basically do something with my mat, he said. And so those around him said, "If you're going to go to a pure realm, who should we take as our protector and refuge?" When they asked this, he said, "Don't engage in grudges of mental clinging. You are all never separate from me." So I'm basically saying, don't be attached. This means the attachment of self-clinging, of ego clinging. Do not have any ego clinging. You are never separate from me, he said. He said this 3 times. And then after that, without any sign of illness, he's sitting in the 7-pointed posture of Vairochana, and right there he passed away. It's not like, he got sick and lay down the way we usually do. He just sat right there in the 7 points of posture and passed away. We can't even sit in the 7 points of Vairochana when alive. And he sat in in the 7 points when he was passing away. And that's really, really wondrous, isn't it? Then there's also the talk about how I'd like to speak about how he was invited to see Mikyo Dorje, but I think now we need to take the break. And so when we come back, then I will immediately recommence with this. So now I spoke in brief about Khenchen Shurut Sengye's liberation story. I have received a copy of an old liberation story of Chögyam Sengye, and I think if we read this, we can learn about his life. So now I'd like to speak in general about how Chögyam Sengye was invited to see Mikyo Dorje and give him full ordination. So as I mentioned earlier, the Mahasiddhist Sangye Nyempa had a bad foot, as I said. So one day, when his foot was hurting and was actually very painful, Mikhail Dorje was with him, and so at that time, Sanjay Nempa said to him, so my so because of my bad foot, I thought I should give offerings of Shamachugi Chenga Shamachuga Japa. And he thought that he should give. He wanted to give it, given he could have given the offerings, but he thought it would. He thought it might offend the seventh Karmapa, and so he didn't offer the fourth Shama Chenga Chuda these offerings. And so later, in a vision or in a dream or in some sort of pure vision, whenever he saw Chenga Rinpoche, his face was not clean, not clear. It was a little bit fuzzy. And so, for instance, when he thought about Shama Chenga, his foot would hurt, and so later. And so I think it's because I didn't serve Shama Rinpoche well that my foot went bad, he thought. And so for that reason, so I think that it would be good if you could take the full ordination from the Shama Rinpoche, but because of the leaders of the encampment and because of many other people, said that the previous Shama Chenga Chudak had broken his samai and so forth. It's a little difficult. So he asked him what he thought. And so at that point, then Mikhail Dorje said, I will do whatever you tell me to do. And Yempa Rinpoche said that it made a little plan. And so they're probably in the region of Kham. And so they prepared to go to central Tibet. So though they made these plans, they did not work out. And Chenga Rinpoche passed away quickly. Chenga Rinpoche passed away quickly, and the people in the encampment were reluctant to go to central Tibet, and so Shama had passed away. So he was not able to receive the full ordination from the Shama Chenga Shama Chudak. And so when he thought about whom he should receive the vows from, he spoke with other people about this. And the reason for this is that he sent a letter to Kama Chinpa saying, you should come and see me. And within that, he said, I'd like to take the full ordination. And so he also sent it to, who would be the best Lama for me to take full ordination from? And Karma Chinpa said, so that Kenshin Sutta is really very good. And so he shared that opinion. Shared that opinion with Mikhail Dorje, as is discussed. And Kenshin Chudak himself, what he said is that in the past, when the seventh Karmapa Chudak Gyatso came to Gendon Gan, that there's a really good interdependent connection. And the reason is that at that time, so at that time, they had invented a golden procession to welcome him, and they were in the procession. So each person had a different thing to hold in their hands, and they stand in a line. And so what he had was a golden mandala. It was a really beautiful mandala. and there were piles of jewels of many different colors. And so he was holding this, so it was basically his turn to read that. And because of that connection, and likewise, when they were making the offerings, is able to make an offering of the it. He's able to make an offering of the it's his turn to make the offering of that. And also, when the Karmapa was later giving gifts, the seventh Karmapa, he had the fortune to receive a very nice namdar, or outer robe, from the seventh Karmapa. Likewise, when the seventh Karmapa, Chudajasa, went down to the region of Kongpo, at that time, he thought, and if you read the stories of the previous Buddhas, they would throw grains, actually they throw lentils. And so for that reason, he threw a few grains or some few lentils, and it's the mention of, and so he made the he made an aspiration to rouse bodhicitta. And at that point, the seventh Karmapa looked at him and smiled. And so from that point, he thought that, and so in this lifetime, these made the connections for me to need to be the Kempo to give Mikyo Dorje full ordination. And so this is what Khenpo Chögyal Semgye himself said. So one thing that you all need to know is that from the time of the third Karmapa, Rangjung Dorje, almost all of the Karmapas had taken vows at the Tso Gendungang monastery. And the Tso Gendungang and the various Karmapas had a great connection. And so then there's a saying at Khenpo Gendungang that for each of them, each of the incarnations of the Karmapas was an incarnation of the 16 arhats would appear for each of them. So Chögyal Semgye was said to be an emanation of the arhat Yenlak Chung, and so the person from which there are many different lamas from whom the Karmapas take the four. But at the Gendun Sampa, when you talk about the four places, this is one of the main monasteries where the Vinaya was emphasized practice, and so they had most respect for that. They considered it very important, and so the Karmapas would go there, and then receive the lineage of vows from there, and so for those reasons. And so it's decided that Chögyal Semgye would give him for the full ordination vows. Mr. Dorje wrote a similar letter which said, "I wish to take the vows of full ordination. You have the qualities of a venerable noted upholder of the Vinaya, so please come here. If you think that the road will be hard and do not come, you have fallen away from the Bodhisattva's conduct." It's a rather strict letter. When Chögyal Semgye opened up the letter, it's at the very time that they were blowing a conch in the puja. So, this is a really good connection, and so he was very pleased about this. But at that time, how old was he? He was 79 years old. 79 years old already. He would have to go from central Tibet all the way down to Kongpo, which is a several months journey. For one thing, he was very old. And second thing is, it is very difficult. There weren't any cars or airplanes in those days. There were no trains. You had to ride the horse and you had to go like that all the time. I don't know if they even read the horses. There were also people who didn't read horses, people who didn't read animals, ride animals. He said, I can't come. And he sent that in a response saying, I can't come. Mikio Dorje once again sent somebody, he sent people to come and insist that he come. And so since he was so insistent, and so it's because the teachings, because he had such a profound teaching, because of the teaching in the Jinlong, because he had such a profound connection with the previous, between the Tsokde and the previous Karmapa, so he decided to go to Kamada. So from the third day, the 9th month of the year of Pig, he went down, he met the great translator, and I'm not sure which one it is. I think it's probably Shalu Lotsawa. It said he met a great Lotsawa. So I think it's probably Shalu Lotsawa. And they discussed the Dharma. And then eventually, they arrived at the great encampment in the 11th Tibetan month. When they arrived on the great encampment, then that same day, he met Mikyo Dorje. Then he rested for a few days because he was very old, and he had walked, he had come the whole way, so he needed a few days to rest. And then on the 23rd day, he offered the full ordination vows. And on that day, there weren't any clouds or anything in the sky. It was a very clear sky. And within that, there was a rainbow in the sky, and rain of flowers followed. And every day after that, he went to see Mikyo Dorje, and they would discuss the difficult points of Sutra and Tantra. And I think that he probably also introduced him to the Shentung view at that time, too. And he gave Mikyo Dorje the empowerment of Antayus and the initiation of Red Spear Vaishnavana. And so as this is the connection that the histories record. So Mikyo Dorje himself wrote Namtara of Sangye Nyempo Rinpoche, in which it says, at that time, I received the blessings of serving the great Khenpo of Tsok Gendundang, an individual who was emanated by the great Siddhas from the tradition of the omniscient Jonang, who was certain to go from this life to the presence of the Dharma King in Shambhala. The Guru, precious Buddha Chudut Sengye, and the great being born as Jai Kamache, who transcends humans, a master of yoga, a god victorious over all directions, whose mind has been ripened well by samadhi and dismissal. Also, he says in autobiography, says, I received full ordination from a Sangha, including the scholar and great meditator Chuduk Sengye and the great meditator yogi Kamachinepa. They were the abbot and acharya, and they were like nurses who raised infinite intelligence about the sutras Thomas. Because of them, the accumulation and purification of listening and contemplation in mind is, in this degenerate time, not limited. So what Mikyo Dorje himself was saying here is, so in this lifetime, one of the greatest things he did was to receive the full ordination. There was no greater deed that he did than that. And to receive this from a great emanation of an arhat, from him was good. And so if you even would speak about it, there's no way you could describe it. And so he also kept a set of all of Chuduk Sengye's hair that Chuduk Sengye had cut at that time. He kept that, and within that there appeared many relics. In Khenchen Chuduk Sengye himself, so on the day that he gave the full ordination to Mikyo Dorje, there was a high pass. Excuse me, on the way to see this, he went to Kombo Bale, and when he climbed up there, and when he resting his mind and body, and he dreamt that he went up there. And so for that, and so my being able to, so he was called the Joden Khenpo. The reason why he was called the Joden Khenpo, and the reason he was called this is because he's from one of the four of they stay they would so so he never because he didn't ever eat food after he's called a jodenpa because he only sat on a single foot. So basically meaning that he'd eat in one meal. So he thought to himself, by giving the full ordination, my intentions have been fulfilled. And when I gave him, and when he saw that when he gave Mikhe Dorje the Amitabha, he also dreamt that he made many tsatsas. And each of these then multiplied into many, they covered a great area. So this is a dream that he had. And so for that reason, and so he said that because of this, that Mikhe Dorje would have a long life and vast activity. And Khenchen Chudut Senge said to Mikhe Dorje's student Sanjay Padrup, the day that I met Mikhe Dorje, I felt a great faith. The way that he spoke and acted with his body, speech, and mind, like there are no stains of attachment or aversion, and that's how it appeared to me. And when speaking to him, when speaking about the main points of the Dharma, and when we discussed and he asked about these, he'd get right to the main point. He would always get straight to the point of the Dharma. And so if he's someone so young, for someone so young, he has a really deep foundation. So if you have a discussion from one today, the discussion got brighter and brighter and weightier and weightier. His intelligence is growing stronger and stronger. And this is something that we ordinary sentient people cannot get our minds around or conceive of. And so for that reason, if you can, and so it's that the Karmapa is really as pure an individual as described in the life stories of the Karmapas. And so in this way, he praised Mikhe Dorje very highly. And likewise, when he said that when I pass away, he said, I'm going to go to Shambhala and meet the Karmapa Chittachatso and so forth. And so he said, this is a great fortune that he had. So after this, I'd like to speak about the fourth of Mikhe Dorje's main gurus, or Chotle Nabar Gyalwai Hla, also known as Karma Chinnepa. He was born in Dakpo, and he was born. It's many different areas. There is a Kurapa, Lord Kurapa. So there is the of Kurapa, and he was born in the family of this lord. There are many, of course, in that region there are many lords, but Kurapa was the greater lord. So he was born to one of his commanders of his army named Dungchen Sunam Tashi, and also his name Sunam Tashi, and the mother was named Rinchen Drulma in the 1456. And he was a nephew of Tashi Namje, who was a Sakya scholar. When he was little, he entered Sungkar Monastery. Excuse me, Sungkar Medical College. So there are two lineages of medical treatment in Tibet. There's a Chang and the Sur lineage. And so Sur, the Sur monastery is primarily maintained by the Karmakaji lineage, and within that, the Surkhan Namnyi Dorje was like the real source of the Sur tradition medical studies, and so we went to study there. And he also studied the Nyingma teachings on the Che. Then at the age of 17, he went forth with the elder Hundred Sampo. Then later, at the age of 37, he took full ordination of Shama Chengachura in Neodong. And so he took it one day, and the next day, he took it one day. The next day, he had to act as the acharya or master in a full ordination ceremony because there's so many people coming to take as the vows. And at the age of 20, he took from Sangye Pel, the scholar of the five treatises of Maitreya, he took the Bodhisattva vows. We talk about this scholar of the five treatises, Sanjay Pel. He was the first one to be given the name Rabjamba, given the title of Rabjamba. And he had many students, Gorampa, and Gesawa, and Jambakunga Sunam, and many others. And among them, Kamachinnepa is one. So in Tibet, he is the first Rabjamba, the first to have the title of Rabjamba. When we talk about, these days we talk about Geshe Larampas and Dorams and Ram. That Ram means from Rabjamba. So before the before that, people would say Kashipa. Kashipa would have the four words. It would mean someone who had passed a debate test on the four great texts. And from Gyatso Dhamma Rinchen added the five, and they added one. They called it six texts. So Gyatso Dhamma Rinchen was the first of these called the Kachupa, the 10 lineage, or the 10 text test. In any case, when we talk about from Sanjay Pel, the scholar of the five lineages, he took the Bodhisattva vows, as well as the Guya Samaja Mandala, and therefore the mantra vows as well. And then also, there was someone named Sharadab Jampa called the second Milarepa, and he received the 6 dharmas of Nigo and Sukha Siddhi and so forth. And also from Dubchen Chupar, who was probably a student of Chodak Gyatso. From him, he received the fivefold Mahamudra and other teachings. And at Sechidrum, there was a Nyalde Drum monastery, and he taught the Prajnaparamita there in the midst of 700 Sangha members. And then followed that with Lopan Sena Gompo and with Geshe Gendon Lundrup, the Jamlin Pension Sunam Nanjal. That he made Dharma connections with all of them, received many teachings. And from Gongko Dorje Dempa, he received Vajrakila and the Vajra Song and other texts. There's also a master named Desangpa. From whom he received the Sanskrit grammar and Tibetan grammar and other general fields of knowledge. And once again studied with Sanjay, the Jamchen Ramchampa, Sanjay Pel. He studied the Nagarjuna study of Guya Samaja. As we also studied the ornament of clear realization, the commentary on validity, Vinaya, Abhidharma, the root text, and the middle, and entered into the middle way and became learned in all of these. Also at that time, there was a Panchen Buntrak Sumpa. He studied the five treatises of Mantra and the Amitaya Sutra and other sutras. He studied Prajnaparamita, the thunder of scripture and logic, with Panchen Dundab Gyatsam, the wish-fulfilling tree, and the pile of flowers, the text on composition, among others. And so he received many teachings, empowerments, and transmissions from many great scholars and meditators. And later he thought they ought to go he thought he should go to debate in the great monastery of Tsetang, but his elder brother summoned him, and so he was not able to go. So later, he received Kajang Wangchu's instructions on the 6 yogas from Shama Chengajutazin and many other teachings. And then on the 7th day of the 5th lunar month of the female fire shape year, he met Chodak Gyatso, and from that time on, he never thought of Chodak Gyatso as anything other than an actual Buddha. And there's also a letter that Chuda Gyatso in the letters that Chuda Gyatso, he said many places said, we too have a strong connection from aspirations in previous lives, saying that they're master and student. So for many lifetimes before, he developed the certainty that Chuda Gyatso was a Lama whom he had studied with for many lifetimes. He also received the instructions on the indivisible prajna awareness, and at that time, Chuda Gyatso said, if you promise to uphold my lineage, I will give it to you. And so Karma Thom said, I will uphold this Kagyu lineage, and made that commitment. And then at that time, and then only then did he give him an experiential instruction on the 6 yogas of Naropa. And that instruction took 5 months. And during that time, he was staying near the encampment in a small tent, I think. And so when he'd go to when he'd take the teachings, he'd go to the Karmapa. In other times, he would go back and stay in retreat and practice. And he developed the amazing signs that are taught and explain the text. And so then he received teachings on the co-emergent yoga of Mahamudra, the 4 dharmas, the jewel ornament of liberation, and so forth. He received teachings on Vajravarahi and Gyawa Gyatso, the middle way views and the minor texts that teach on how the Rangtong and Shentong are not contradictory, and as well as the transmission of Rangjung Dorje's complete works. He also received detailed explanations of the profound principles in the Outer Commentary 5 times. And he also had teachings on the 2 short texts. So there are 4 of these great. These received instructions on the 4 short texts. And he also received the empowerments of the 5 mandalas of the Ngot lineage, including the instructions. And so he followed Chuda Gyatso as his root guru. Then following that, there was a student of Chuda Gyatso's named Jambal Gyatso, from whom he received teachings on Chu. From Siddhartha Bhaja, he received the Guhyama Samaja tradition as well as Krishnapada tradition of Chaksamvara. And so he received a lot of teachings from many different masters, and I don't need to list them all in detail. Now, to discuss how he so in central Tibet, he went to look for Chokor Lungpo, and he built there's a Sakya monastery. There was a big statue of the Isthaja that was 25 palms tall. So a palm is about that size. And so he built a statue that's that size. So at that time, so in the region of Mun, he said that he developed a paper factory that he made different places, just make a different size and different thickness and so forth. And so this is later it was called the Chujel paper, and this is considered the best paper for printing text. And so this was developed by Karma Chinle. He also was at a place called Teura. He founded a shutter in the Sakya tradition. Later, then Chujel Chapa invited the 7th Karmapa and offered the Chokor Lumpa monster that had been built along with all its statues and so forth, as well as a Sangha of 500 monks, including his younger brother, and he offered them these were the Karmapa. And the Karmapa appointed Karma Trinipa as its abbot. So Karma Trinipa probably was given to him at that time. So Karma Trinipa is actually a rank, right? And so it's given to him at that time. So when he was made the abbot there, he made a a reliquary statue for Goshri Pachadundub that was basically 1 story tall. Then there were 500 monks at Chokor Lumpur, so he divided into 4 groups and started the beginning instruction on them. In particular, he taught primarily the teachings of the Chapa, and so it's basically from that area, from Chapa Chokor. So at that time when Chapa and Kamachilipa at that point, but at that time, it was like the time when this when these teachings flourished the most. And then once Chokor Lumpur became well, then he once again offered it all in entire to the 7th Karmapa, and as his replacement, the 7th Karmapa appointed Tashi Namgyal, Chatashi Namgyal to. He's probably a student of the 7th Karmapa, and so there are many texts by him, many examinations of this Rubutapa. So this is a way of determining whether just talking about examining materials, look of jewels or bells and so forth. So Kamachilipa himself spent some time at a mountain retreat. And then the Garchen went to Lhasa. And when the Garchen went to Lhasa, then Kamachilipa also went with them. So at that time, the great Angson, because he had a rank, gave him so he's put at the head of the right-hand row. So, and at that time, in Lhasa, there's a Kamadatsang monastery called Kamakansam Monastery in Lhasa. So the place is still there. So in the Kamadatsang monastery, he was appointed its lama, and he was allowed to have a parasol above him. And he's said to have attendants and retainers and so forth. And so he gained that right at that point. So at that point, at the Ramoche monastery, he began teachings on the Lamp of the Three Worlds, the 7th Karmapa's text on Prajnaparamita. And then some in the area around the Joel extension, he laid a foundation for Tupten Chokor, a new place. Now there's some difficulties or complications that happen because at that point in the area of Phloxen there was Drepung and Sera and other monasteries, right? And so they misunderstood this, and the Karmapa is doing this, making a big monastery there. So they thought he was trying to take power. And so there was a conflict that arose at that time. So I'm not going to speak too much about that now. And so this was, he built this place called the Tupchen or Tupten Chokor that was built there. And here he built that, and they completed the temple and so forth, and gathered a great sangha of monks. And so it was primarily. And so he was the primary abbot and leader of the monastery. And the plan was that this would be a monastery where they would practice the Vinaya. And the reason for this is that at that time, the 7th Karmapa himself had a pure vision. And it's because at that time, around the Joel statue, there were lots of lay people living in that area, and for that reason, thought that was not such a good circumstance for the Jokan. So I thought if there were monks who practiced the Vinaya purely in that area, then it would be very good. So he made that prediction, and so also the Lord of Lhasa offered him the place, and so he built the monastery. But not long after it was built, then Chodajasa passed away, and after he passed away, then during the time the 8th Karmapa, they didn't really take good care of it, because in the past there was a conflict of that. He said that there's this source for conflict, and so not to take much care. Later, the buildings fell into disrepair and it fell down, and there was grass growing through them and so forth. So after then after the seventh Karma passed away, in order for to fulfill the meanings of there was a period. So he'd fulfill his wishes, so that it took good from the period he made great offerings in order that this would occur. So the tradition of making great offerings in order for tulkas to quickly to make the tulka appear quickly. So at that point, Kalapata made a great offering, including a lot of salt, actually. And actually, salt you need is good. You can do without sugar, but you can't do without salt. So since you absolutely have to have salt, so he gave 2,000 bushels of salt, because in the old days, salt was considered really important. Salt and gold were considered to be about the same in importance. And so for that reason, he gave 2,000 bushels of salt. And in the region in the Tujin's monastery, he built a large statue of the Buddha. And at that point, there were 300 members of the Sangha. Then in the 1504, the Woodbird year, so Karma Datsang at that point. So there's like they needed like that was primarily they needed a new Shedra, so they founded the Karma Lekshiling. So the Chögyam Lama Phuntsok has founded a new monastery called a Karma Lekshiling there, and he probably used the name of Karma Lekshiling as to take the name for his monastery. I've heard people say this to me. So this Lekshiling monastery he built there, and it was primarily a Shedra. And he also built a place called Chanchupling with a Chime Chanchup palace. He started a Shedra there, and then primarily they taught the Tantra. So the Lekshiling was primarily the sutras, and Chanchupling was primarily a Tantric Shedra. So Lekshiling, he built many statues of body, speech, and mind there. Now I don't need to explain them all now. So in brief, Chikamba Trungpa had founded several monasteries, and the main of them, and the main ones were the Shedras that taught the Sutra and the Tantras, as well as the practice of the Vinaya. And then in 1527, he met Mikyu Dorje. And he taught him a lot of Dharma about the Sutra and Tantras. Not only that, along with Kenshin Chudit Sengye, he gave the 8th Karmapa Mikyu Dorje the vows of full ordination. And so he became a very important Lama of Mikyu Dorje. And Mikyu Dorje himself also wrote over 10 prayers and long life prayers and so forth. And he said that he was someone who had received a level of supreme worldly dharma on the path of joining. And so saying that he had basically achieved some level on the path. So now his collected works have over 10 volumes, and among them, you can, and most of these are still extant to this day. I think you can still get them. In the end, at the age of 84, in 1539, he passed away. And after he passed away, his students, he had many students among the Sakya lineage, he had many among the Kagyu lineage. And the reason for this is he initially was Sakyapa, and a holder of the Sakya lineage. As I mentioned, he was like the main student of the Chamchen Ravchen Sangye. And later became the student of Chura Chatso, and became an important upholder of the Kagyu lineage. And so he has respected both the Sakya and the Kagyu, and for that reason, he had many students from both the Sakya and the Kagyu. So So the way they, so I think it's probably best for me to speak about how Mikyu Dorje followed him as a guru, and I'll speak about them tomorrow. And the reason is because I think about today, my brain is, it's not working too well today. And so I don't know if it's got tired today or something. It's not working well today. And so for here, I'll leave it at this point. So I'll speak about how he followed Karma Trinlepa and how Mikyu Dorje studied the various areas of knowledge. This is not very clear in many Dharma histories or liberation stories, but I found one text that it is very clearly described, and so I'll describe that tomorrow. And so that is what we'll do. But the biggest worry I have is that, so we've gone through 7 days of teachings, but we've only gone through 3 or 4 stanzas. So I'm thinking, when am I going to finish the entire good deeds and when am I even going to be halfway through it? So I do worry about this, but I'm pretending that I'm not worried and still taking my time and thinking. Otherwise, if I worry too much, then I think it'll create faults and obstacles for a teaching. So as much as I can, I'm going to try to teach the entire good deeds and praise Yeshua thoroughly. But I don't want to just read it as if I, reciting a text. It's important that I tell the important parts. So even if I don't do the whole thing now, then there's no other point. So maybe we'll have to continue next year. But my plan is to teach them in full this year. So I thought it'd be good to explain this to you all now. Now, so this is not something that's really important, but something to say on the side. The other day, I spoke a little bit about the steward of Changzi, right? When I spoke about that, many people have been asking me about this. Where is this Changzi? Where is this steward? When you ask, then they probably think that they need to go look for him and make difficulties for him. I said, Changzi passed away, I said. I said, if you need to go make a fuss about it, it's better not to go. If you go. Otherwise, you'd have to go where Changzi has gone, and that wouldn't be good, so better to stay where you are. So when I spoke about this, I sort of slipped out on the side. I didn't think I should speak about that at first, but it just sort of came out. When you're thinking about the difficulties and problems that Mikyu Dorje faced, and in order to make it clear, I just decided to add a little bit from my own life. But the Changzi himself has passed away. So I don't have any thought that he's did something to me, so I need to get back at him. So if he, so I just remember him when I intentionally try to think about it, but otherwise I hardly recall him. So that is it. So thank you.